So the princess sets out alone on her chariot with carved wheels for the first time out of a kingdom. And as she proceeds, she has a feeling as if she has known all these landscapes, all these hills and forests. There is a feeling of sharing, of intimacy with all the scenes. It is as if she is undertaking the journey once again. She passes through fields, through farms, places where there are anchorites, hermits, king sages. She halts at hermitages. She halts at the palaces of kings. She rests under the open skies in the moon. And so she travels on and on, wherever the carriage leads her. And the poet describes how the gods of fate are sitting on the wheels, taking her to the destination. And as she goes from region to region, the days go by and the summer arrives. That is, it takes nearly 1 year for Savitri's quest to reach its culmination. And this canto number 4, The Quest, describes her journey. The world ways opened before Savitri. At first, a strangeness of new, brilliant scenes peopled her mind and kept her body's gaze. In the first stage of our journey, it was all strange. All the brilliant scenes that met her, crowded her mind, kept her body's gaze, not the inner gaze, but the physical sight was held by these brilliant, strange, new scenes. But as she moved across the changing earth, a deeper consciousness welled up in her. It is no more the body's gaze that preponderates, but an inner consciousness that gradually wells up, and she begins to register a different reaction. A citizen of many scenes and climes, each soil and country it has made its home. It is her consciousness that has welled up from within that feels a citizen of many scenes and climes, that feels at home in each soil and in each country. It took all clans and peoples for her own, till the whole destiny of mankind was hers, till it was identified with the whole of humanity. These unfamiliar spaces on our way were known and neighbors to a sense within, not to the gaze of the body, but to an inner sense. Even these unfamiliar spaces, areas, landscapes, they were known. There was a strange familiarity. There was an intimacy to the inner sense with the changing scenes around her. Cities and rivers and plains, her vision claimed like slow recurring memories in front. As she sees each river and each city and each plain, it revives a certain memory, an old memory, as if she has seen these things in the past. The stars at night were her past's brilliant friends. The winds murmured to her of ancient things, and she met nameless comrades loved by her once. All the elements of nature, the stars, the winds, they carry a certain message to her, reviving the old links. And she meets nameless comrades, birds, beasts, maybe humans, whom she recognizes that she had once loved them. All was a part of old forgotten selves. Vaguely, or with a flash of sudden hints, her acts recalled a line of bygone power. Every act recalls to her inner sense something bygone. Even her motion's purpose was not new. Even the objective of her journey, namely to find her companion, was not new. She has gone through this earlier. Traveler to a prefigured high event. The high event that is to mark her meeting with her chosen companion has been prefigured, predestined, decided before. She seemed to her remembering witness soul to trace again a journey often made. Her witness soul, which has been watching all that has happened across many births and deaths, seems to remember that once again it is on a journey that has been made very often before. A guidance turned the dumb revolving wheels. The princess is herself not deciding in which direction the carriage is to go. She has let herself be driven by the horses, and the wheels are moving. But the poet points out, a guidance turned the dumb revolving wheels, and in the eager body of their speed, the speed of the wheels, with that eager speed, the dim masked hooded Godheads rode. That speed, in that speed, the Godheads who decide what is to happen, who shape our destinies, they rode, they are riding over the wheels. They are masked, hooded, veiled to the outer sight. And these are the Godheads who move assigned to man immutably from his birth. That is, certain specific powers are assigned to each individual to help that person to work out his destiny. Man is not alone, whether he is aware of it or not. There are certain Godheads who watch and who help him through, help him to decide. And they are assigned to man, assigned by the cosmic Godhead, by the Supreme, immutably from his birth. Whatever he does, they are there stationed permanently. Receivers of the inner and outer law. They are the persons who supervise over the execution of the law of being, whether it is an inner law or an outer law. At once agents of his spirit's will. His spirits, his soul, each person is organized around the soul, and the soul has a will of its own. And even these Godheads are agents, instruments for the execution of this will of the soul, witnesses and executors of his fate. So ultimately, the fate of each individual is decided by his will. It is a conclusion of the will of his soul. The Godheads who are helping him, who supervise over the working of his law of being, they are witnesses and at the same time executors who carry out the decree of the will of the soul. This is the observation of the poet, and he continues, inexorably faithful to their task of carrying out the will of the soul, the will of the spirit. They hold his nature's sequence in their guard. Nature is subordinate to the soul. It is only externally that nature seems to determine human activity. But these guardians, they hold nature's sequence in their guard. They don't allow nature to go beyond the lines drawn by the inner and the outer law of the soul. They hold his nature's sequence in their guard, carrying the unbroken thread all lives have spun. Each life spins a certain length of thread. In the next birth, that thread is continued. There is no break between the thread of the past life and that of the present life. And it is these Godheads who carry the thread that has been spun by the old lives. They don't allow it to be broken. Attendance on his destiny's measured walk, what we call destiny, it walks in a leisurely manner, measured walk, not erratic. And these Godheads are attendants, witnesses, leading to joys he has won and pains he has caused. This measured walk of destiny leads to the joys that the individual has won and to the pains he has caused. When there are pains, they are not inflicted on man. In some way or other, the pains have been called, have been invited, have been caused by some movement on the part of the individual. So he has carefully spelled out, leading to joys he has won and pains he has caused. Even in his casual steps, they intervene. We think our steps are casual steps, but each step has a meaning. Each step leads to a direction, and these attendants, they intervene in each step. They don't allow us to take a step which is contrary to the will of the soul. If we take a wrong step, apparently, it is because it is permitted by the soul, so that we may learn by experience. Nothing we do, we think or do is void or vain. We think things are insignificant, it doesn't matter what we do, these are not important things. But from the point of view of truth, of the divine intelligence, nothing we think or do is void or vain. Every single vibration of what we think, of what we feel, has a consequence, has a reaction. So nothing is obliterated, nothing is forgotten, and every step, every act, every moment has a meaning and produces a consequence. Each, that is because he explains in scientific terms, each is an energy loosed and holds its course. When we entertain a feeling, when we entertain a thought, it is an energy at that level which has been formulated, which has been released. And an energy that has been let loose is bound to go on its course. That's the law. Once you release an energy, you can't stop it. The shadowy keepers of our deathless past, shadowy, because you can't identify them specifically. You know they are there. There is a certain vagueness about it. These keepers of our deathless past. Our past is really never past. Our past lives in the present and prolongs itself in the future. In terms of time, we can say the past is gone. But in terms of result, in terms of its effect, the past continues. Our present is what it is because our past was what it was. In that sense, the past continues. And the keepers of our deathless past have made our fate the child of our own acts. Our fate is not something that is imposed upon us by an outside agency. It is not something that is thrown on us as a punishment. It is a child of our own acts. Our fate is a relentless consequence of what we have done at some time or other. So it is a child, a product of our own acts. And from the furrows labored by our will flows into the earth soil or the soil of life. And from the furrows labored by our will, we reap the fruit of our forgotten deeds. We may forget what we have done, but the fruit of those deeds we have to reap in one life or another. But since unseen the tree that bore this fruit, we see only the fruit. We don't see the tree behind. That is why he says, but since unseen the tree that bore this fruit, and we live in a present born from an unknown past, we know the present, but that it is born from a past, we do not know because our past is unknown to us. So the tree is unseen, the past is unknown, they seem but parts of a mechanic force. All looks mechanical. The past yields its fruit now. Energy is loosed at one time, they can produce certain consequences now. So it all looks parts of a mechanic force. To a mechanic mind tied by earth's laws, that is, to the materialist vision, everything looks like a mechanic mind and a mechanic force functioning within the ambit of the law of earth. But that's not the whole truth. That's only an apparent appearance. Yet are the instruments of a will supreme. There is a supreme will of God that determines all these laws, all these movements. They may appear to be mechanical to us, but even they are instruments of a will supreme, watched by a still, all-seeing eye above. There is a supreme eye that oversees everything that goes on below. And the source of every movement is to be traced to that will. And the functioning of that movement is overseen by the highest eye of God. A prescient architect of fate and chance, an architect who sees ahead, who anticipates, who sees the future of fate and chance, who builds our lives on a foreseen design, the design on which our lives are patterned, that is foreseen by that eye. the meaning knows. That architect knows the meaning and the consequence of each step and watches the inferior stumbling powers, the lower powers which are constantly stumbling. They too are watched by that prescient architect. He knows that whatever the stumblings, ultimately they will take the direction and the lines that are foreseen. Upon her, now he comes back to the narrative and relates it to Savitri, the princess. Upon her silent heights, she was aware. She is watching all these changing scenes, experiencing what they call deja vu, already seen, already experienced. But upon her silent heights, she was aware of a calm presence throned above her brows, who saw the goal and chose each fateful curve. There are so many roads, so many curves to be negotiated, and she was conscious that there is a presence that is watching, that is keeping its eye on the goal to be reached, and each fateful curve, each curve, it decides not to take this curve but to take that curve. And that is why it leads to the destined fate. She is aware of it. Upon her silent heights, she was aware of a calm presence throned above her brows, who saw the goal and chose each fateful curve. It used the body for its pedestal. Her physical body is used as a pedestal, a foundation for its functioning, the presence. It used the body for its pedestal. The eyes that wandered were its searchlight fires. The outer physical eyes that wandered from place to place are really the searchlight fires of that higher presence. The hands that held the reins, its living tools. All was the working of an ancient plan. Her getting into the chariot, her going, her moving from road to road, her changing the curves, all was the working of an ancient plan. A way prepared by an unerring guide. The guide, the divine guide, is unerring. No mistake is possible. And that way to the goal is prepared by the guide. And all was the working of an ancient plan, a way prepared by an unerring guide.